Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new episode of Positive Leadership Podcast. My guest today is a key figure in the world of industry and sustainable mobility. After beginning his career at PwC and Excel Logistics, he joined a very renowned company in 1997 and climbed the ranks to become its leader in 2019. Under his leadership, this company has not only focused on the production of on tire productions, of course, but has also redefined its future by positioning itself as a global leader in sustainable mobility with ambitious goals such as producing 100% sustainable tires by 2050. A visionary, he firmly believes that innovation, respect for the environment, and ethics should guide companies toward a more responsible future. With a career marked by his commitment to sustainability and a drive to transformation, he continues to demonstrate how a major company can have a positive impact on the world. It is my great pleasure to welcome very warmly the CEO of Michelin, Florent Menegaux. Very warm welcome. Très bienvenue, chaleureusement, Florent.
Thank you very much, Jean-Philippe. Thank you all for listening.
So I like, Florent, to begin each episode by knowing a bit more about the guests I have and starting in a way with their childhood, their values, where they come from. So if you don't mind, can you tell us a little bit more about your childhood, your family, your roots, where you come from, and the way it started shaping you early on in your life?
So I'm the second of a brotherhood of four. We were four children. My father was working at IBM. And he was in charge of launching the personal computer in front of Apple. And my mother, she was specialized in art and a museum and things like that. So all of them, both of them were very highly educated and were putting a lot of pressure on us to be successful at school.
School first.
Yes, school studies were very important.
Okay.
And I'm only 1 year younger than my first brother.
Yes.
And then my second brother is 5 years behind me, and my sister is 9 years behind me. So we had different education amongst our four. Yeah. Then I lived in Paris. And
so you were born in Paris?
Yeah, I'm born in Paris.
Oh, real Parisian.
Yeah, real Parisian. I've done everything there, and I thought that when you were moving outside of the périphérique, which is the sort of circular ring around Paris, you had to take a special medicine. So I was really a Parisian rooted. And then as I developed, I started to be interested in the world. And I had a lot of responsibility very soon. I was...
as a student?
Before that, my parents were traveling a lot.
Yes.
Together, and I was in charge of cooking for my
for the brothers,
for and for the family, and I was in charge of. I had a lot of responsibility from at that age, and it was interesting, and it was pleasant. I liked to be responsible,
assuming responsibility
at that time. And after that, I graduated, and I was specialized in finance, but I was more interested in. Rather than studies, I was interested in making things happen. And I knew that I was not excellent at school, but I knew that I would make a difference in a business working with other people. I liked being in leadership position and transforming things.
I think you studied at Paris Dauphine, is that right?
Yes.
As well?
Yes.
And at the time, did you get any kind of mentorship or role models guiding you to become a businessman, if that was something in your mind?
Not at all, actually. Not at all. Okay. I was interested in the world. I was interested in how things were working. I've always been very curious and always never satisfied up until I understand how things work. And so
manually as well, getting into the
manually
building things, making things.
Making things. And for example, on my retirement, I would like to make very good bread. It's very different from what I'm doing as a bakery. But I would like to do. I know there is a big difference between a nice baguette and ordinary baguette.
Yes.
And I would like to do a nice baguette.
A very nice baguette.
What does it take to make a nice baguette?
Wow.
So that's
a scoop, right? Just starting our podcast, Florent's future as a baker in Clermont or somewhere else.
Exactly.
No, that's wonderful. So I think you just said it. I think you started your career as well in a consulting role at PwC. Yeah. And later you worked at Excel Logistics before joining Michelin. Any particular moments, leadership lessons, insights at PwC before we get to Michelin, of course, which is the core of your career?
At PwC, I was always interested in what was modern at that moment. And when I joined Pricewaterhouse in France, it was the moment where they were introducing options, swaps, those kind of tools.
Derivatives,
markets, etc. All those kind of tools in the French market. And I started to specialize. So I was reading books from what is existing in the Chicago Board of Trade.
Yes.
And I became an expert in how do you implement in banks these kind of systems.
So why didn't you pick up the job of a banker?
Because after a while, I became very frustrated because everything was notional.
Conceptual.
You were dealing with very complex subject.
Mathematical concept as well.
Exactly, but you would never see physically something.
So I decided tangible enough for you.
Tangible, and I was frustrated also as a consultant because every time I thought I had great ideas and I was pushing for great stuff.
Yes.
I always encounter people that were telling me, but in real life it's different. So I started to say, okay, now how do I face with the real life?
So you didn't stay for too many years at PwC because of that frustration, right?
Exactly. After 5 years, I had a very fast promotions in PwC. Everybody was talking to me, you would be a partner, it would be
soon,
great,
etc.
And I was not interested.
You said not for me.
Exactly.
So how did the idea or the light come up with Michelin one day? What happened?
It was because actually I was fired from my previous job as running a transport company in Europe.
Excel Logistics?
No, it was Norbert Entresangles.
Okay.
It was in between Excel Logistics and Michelin.
Okay. You were fired?
I was fired.
What did you do?
And because I was transforming heavily.
Yes.
And I had issues with my boss.
Okay.
And that's when I was not really ready to compromise too much.
It was your way.
I was interested in things, and I was not in agreement with the way he was managing me and his philosophy, etc. So up to a point where, for example, he was saying to me, you are not feared by the people you manage.
Wow.
And I was explaining to him, you see what I mean is, I don't fear you.
Yes.
You annoy me a lot, but I don't fear you, and that's not the way I want.
I don't want to manage by fear.
Yeah, I don't want to manage by fear. So
wow.
That's when he then decided to fire me,
so that was a big moment, I guess, for you, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting moment.
Yes.
Then I realized that if I really wanted to transform, I had also to make some compromises at some point. Because I would have to accept to be in. Because if you're outside an organization, you cannot transform the organization.
You cannot change it, yes.
Exactly. So the point is you have to be in. So, and then that's when I started to formalize in me the fact that, okay, where would be the boundaries? Where would be the limit?
Your red lines.
What would be my red lines? Saying, okay, I would have to compromise up to that limit. And then at that limit, I would not compromise anymore.
So what were those limits, if you can remember? And if those limits have changed over time, I guess they change.
Yeah. It's first, think about it.
Yes. Okay.
So it means that when listen to what the other is saying.
Thinking, yes.
And then process it yourself and see whether it resonates with you or not, and put yourself in the shoes of the other one.
Showing some empathy, some form of empathy. Yeah.
Exactly. So it means that the other one may not be wrong. He may see things from a different angle.
Yes. Yeah.
And but if you're stubborn and you're then you cannot have a proper relationship. And it's only when you have done that process, then you can decide whether it's acceptable or not for you. And it became very clear at that moment. And I was pretty young. I was 30, 32.
Yeah.
But I had also a family and 3 young children.
Wow.
Yes, and I had a lot of responsibility.
Of course.
And that's also, I realized that first I was at home, fired. Then I was processing all that.
Did you feel guilty with your family as well, being home and?
I felt responsible.
Responsible, not
so
guilty.
So it means not guilty. I felt responsible, saying, "Hey, you have to be. You now have responsibility, so you cannot do exactly what you want. You have to accept the fact that you're bringing with you your family, and therefore you have more at stake."
Okay.
So and at that point in time, back to Michelin. I knew also that I was interested in working with people that were interesting me. And somebody, I was doing some, I asked for support to help me in that moment to process everything.
As a coach or mentor
as a coach,
friend?
A professional outplacer.
Okay.
That would act as a mentor for me and help me process that moment. Yeah. Because everybody was telling me, I was great. I would climb the ladder very quickly, etc. But then I became fired. So it was for me difficult to understand how to process and accept it. So I used that professional, and that professional told me, "Look, Florent, I have an idea for you. I'm going to ask you to meet some people, but you will have to accept to go through the process from the beginning to the end. Then you will decide whether you accept or not. But you have to promise to me that you will go through the process.
You commit to the process.
Exactly. Yes. So I met, and he didn't tell me which company he was thinking of. And at that time he was outplacing for Michelin.
Okay.
And that it was at the time where Edouard Michelin, the son was taking over Michelin and making a big transformation within reorganization in Michelin. And that's and he asked me to meet Michelin people.
Wow.
And when I knew it was Michelin, my first reaction was, it's a nonsense. I'm not an engineer. I know nothing about tires. That company, I am going to be too wild for that company.
Yes. So you rejected.
And he told me, "Hey, please, you promised.
Go through the process."
You go through the process. So I went through the process, and I met really extraordinary people.
Wow.
And what struck me at that time was there was a big difference, big mismatch between my conception of Michelin and the people I met.
You are meeting with.
I met great people that looked happy, that had spent decades at Michelin.
Were committed, passionate. Hey,
those people, there is such a disconnect between what I think and what I see. It's worth exploring. But I thought it was such a disconnect that I thought I would join for a year or two.
Just to see.
And you see, it's been 28 years.
28 years. Already. Wonderful story. It reminds me actually, Florent, of a story I had with one of my early guests, Doug Conant. He used to be the CEO of Campbell Soup. At one point early in his career, he was fired as well.
Yeah.
And he got also a professional coach who got him to write his life story, the few pages, to really step back on his own life, his values, what it means, which helped him a lot to bounce back and have a different approach to people.
Completely. So I went through the same process. He asked me to do 2 sheets of paper. One, I would have to do 3 columns. What do you know? What is your know-how? And what do you know how to help people do things? And the second page would be what do you like and what you don't like. And it was a very interesting moment just to do that, to take the time to do that.
To verbalize, to write it down.
To write it down.
Yes.
And then to think about it it was a very interesting time.
Excellent story. It gets us closer to Michelin now because you started to talk about Edouard Michelin. And I think, in such a podcast, I cannot miss asking you a couple of questions. So I'd like to come back to the very roots of Michelin. Michelin is one of, for our listeners, one of the oldest, largest businesses in France and globally, 135 years old. A really amazing story that started in 1889 in the beautiful volcanic French rural region of Auvergne, in the city of Clermont-Ferrand. It was created by two brothers, Edouard and André Michelin. And the initial story began at an old rubber factory that the brothers took over from their grandfather, if I understand well. So what I like to do is really to develop a little bit this fascinating story, at least in the very first decades of Michelin, so that we really understand the kind of mission, the kind of organization, the kind of values I think have shaped you for so many years now.
Yeah, absolutely. So the two brothers,
yes.
You have to imagine we are really at the end of the 19th century.
Yes.
The two brothers, one was a painter and the other one was an engineer. And the painter became the industry man. Okay. And the engineer became the marketing man.
Very interesting.
Those two brothers were really genius.
Yes.
Because what was also very interesting is that they were completely activating collective intelligence. Okay. So it means that one would have to work with the other one. The two of them would produce extraordinary things. And most of the principles that drive Michelin today have been already written by these people from the very early stages. The first conviction they had was it's all about people. So it means that whatever you do is about engaging, committing, having people with you. Yeah. The second thing, they were very interested in innovating. Yes. And they were really hungry about the world. They wanted to be modern. So that's why they were interested in the rubber activities of the existing company, but just to build, to participate to the adventure of automotive. The beginning of automobile. They thought it was
the very beginning of this industry.
Very beginning of the industry, and they said, okay, now how do we participate?
Yes.
And after that, they also participated in aircraft. We have built trains. We have built cars. Michelin has been everywhere with these two genius. But also, at that time, they also invented the modern marketing. Yes. They invented the maps. Yes. They invented the road signage. They invented, and also they invented the marketing of the promotions. So it was very interesting in the way they were promoting Michelin. And you have to realize that there were two. The company was comprised of 5 people. 5 people overall.
Beginning, yes, yeah.
And their ambition was to conquer the world. And they were the painter was in Clermont-Ferrand, and the engineer was in Paris. Okay. At that time, it took a lot of time to travel, but they were still able to communicate. And we still have the writings when they were writing letters to each other, and they were such in complete wavelength they could connect even if they were not physically there. Yeah.
And so when did they start building the inception of the first manufacturing plant of tires? When did that happen?
I think the first real manufacturing plant was in 1905.
Okay.
And they started also, they realized that the world was big. So in 1908, they started to implement a plant in Argentina.
The first plant was in Argentina?
The first plant was in France.
In France, in Clermont, I guess?
In Clermont-Ferrand, yes, with the industrial. In Les Carmes, where the head office is today. Yes, yeah. And but at that time, the first innovation from Michelin, the tire has been invented already.
Before, yes.
But what they invented was the dismountable tire. The easily repairable and dismountable tires. Wow. That's what the first invention was that. But they were convinced that if you would put people and looking at the world differently, they would drive a lot of innovation, and they were not stuck by, I would manufacture this or this.
Yeah.
They were interested in solving issues. They were looking at the world, observing what was happening, and trying to invent new things to solve issues from the world.
Yeah, I mean, I know we could do a podcast just on the history of Michelin because it's an amazing story. But I need to ask another question before we go back to both to you, of course, Florent, as well. They were genius in terms of marketing as well, as you said, because people have to realize, when did they launch the maps? And why did they launch the maps when they were manufacturing tires? You have to ask yourself the question. What is that business for?
So in 1901, they launched the guide. The guide was, because at that time, in the early stages of automobile, it was very risky to move outside. You would have breakdowns. You would never know what would happen. And plus people, it was not clear. The roads were not marked, etc. So that's why they started to invent the maps. And they invented the guide. The guide, the first red guide, you had inside the garages where you could have your...
repaired as well.
How you could repair, where you could repair your car. And then as the repair could last... where you would eat and where you could sleep.
You could sleep as well.
And then they started to rank and where things, and then they started to... the guide. It started like that. And the maps were, okay, how do you invent something simple so that somebody traveling in a car could open the map and see where they're going? And it was very interesting because there are two things that have been really incredible. They invented the way to fold a map so that you can carry it easily.
Folding of Michelin maps.
The folding Michelin maps is an invention made by.
Is it a patent as well?
Yeah, at that time it was a patent, but it was.
I know, it's
still
incredible.
Incredible.
I remember using the scale.
And the second thing is they have designed, and it has not changed since then, how you would identify quickly the type of road you're in. So the yellow would be very local roads, and the red would be more bigger roads,
departmental and national roads.
And then they would have a code that would be consistent with the signage on the roads. And the signage was also built by Michelin. So it means that the system was invented at that time.
The system of mobility.
Exactly,
right?
And you need to know as well, for the editors should know as well that Michelin has been the first one to invent the digital map. Via Michelin has been the first digital map in the world.
Wow.
And Google came to Michelin to ask them to help Google to do a Google map.
Wow.
And so we have built Google Map.
Wow.
And after a while, they subcontracted with us in the beginning, up to the time where they said, okay, now we understand how to do it. Now we're going to do it ourselves.
Okay.
But it is very interesting to see that we, even in the digital space, Michelin was
already involved in innovation.
An innovator.
No, I think it's wonderful stories, Florent. Another dimension as well, because we want to go back to the world of today as well, is from the outset, I mean, the brothers Michelin exhibited a very strong sense of social responsibility toward their employees. They provided housing, healthcare, and quality working conditions for their workforce in Clermont-Ferrand, and a very strong sense of care for their local community and region. So love to hear your thoughts about that, because I think it's really part of the fabrics of Michelin, the caring of the community as well.
Absolutely. We have... at the beginning, there were 4 values that were promoted by Michelin. The 4 values of respect. First is you have to the respect for people. The second thing is you have to respect your customer. The third thing is you have to respect your environment. And the environment is not only the materials you use, but it's also the communities in which you are. How do you interact with the territories, etc. Exactly. And the fourth one is respect for facts. And those 4 are really still there. And we have added another one, which is respect for shareholders.
Which makes sense as well.
Which makes sense as well.
On top of the others.
But the values of respect are really very profound, and we still act with these 5 values of respect. 4 of them were there from the very beginning. Caring about people makes a lot of sense because people are not machine.
No.
A corporation is just a set of people that agree to do something together.
Together, yes.
And nobody forces people to work.
No, they can move on every day.
Exactly. Everybody can do whatever they want.
Yes.
So in order for your corporation to develop, and if you want to conquer the world, you have to care about your people, because you know then when you care about your people, then the people are going to take care of the stuff.
Yes.
And there is... in a plant close to Clermont-Ferrand, there is the workers from the shop floor have written on the wall of a meeting room.
Yes.
They have said, the manager takes care of us, we take care of the rest.
Wow.
And I think this is at the heart of empowerment.
Yes.
And the brothers were saying, with people like that, we can go everywhere around the world.
Yes.
So you have to imagine those two people coming from nowhere, willing to conquer the world everywhere. And we've moved in Vietnam, in Argentina, at the early stages of the 20th century. Yeah. And at the time where traveling took a lot of time. Empowerment was also absolutely necessary, because you would send somebody, a team of people, to build a plant.
Yeah, there was no internet, no communication.
And you would have no communication, and you would hope that they would know what to do.
You do something
right. And they would have understood what you wanted them to do. And you would only have a notice of them
a few months later,
6 months or 9 months later.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
So
that's real empowerment at the foundation of Michelin.
The foundation there, and the caring. You cannot empower if you don't care.
Yes. No, I love it. And I believe so much in that foundation to build a sustainable organization. Back to you now. I mean, you share with us in a way, I think, but please feel free to add more, Florent, why you joined Michelin. I think you said through this interview process that you didn't want to commit to at the beginning. You met some incredible people.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess you joined the company because of the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? So that's the reason.
And if my career path, if you look at it, doesn't make sense if you don't put the people.
So tell us more about that career, maybe a couple, because it's an incredible career, some inflection points. And inflection points can be high and lows sometimes. Sometimes we have failure, sometimes we have big success.
Exactly.
So would you mind sharing with us a couple of moments which have, in a way, shaped both you as a leader, but also maybe shaping Michelin return of those moments because of what you decided to do?
First is, I've never had a career. In front of
mind. Yes.
I was only interested in making things happen.
In your current job, in the job you had.
In the job I had. And I've never been satisfied with what I was doing.
Okay.
Always willing to transform, change, because I truly think that the world is the way we shape it.
Yes.
And therefore it means that I'm never looking at the world as a status quo. As it is like it is, and that's it. So I always think that human can reshape the world.
You have a power
differently.
To
we have the power, and the more you activate more people around you, the more you can reshape. So then I decided that I wanted to take responsibility, so that I could have access to more power. And not for me, but to reshape the world.
To have a bigger impact.
To have a bigger impact in the world.
So tell us about, before you became CEO, maybe a defining moment, again, as you took a new role, new responsibility, which was very different from what you did, and where you felt that you had a profound impact in shaping.
So in every job, I changed almost everything I was doing.
Okay.
So when I joined Michelin, I was sent in the UK. At that time, UK was in bad shape and not working for Michelin. And it was okay for Michelin to send me there because you had no stakes. Michelin was not performing
much expectation
there. And me, there I met great people. and I motivated them
Yes.
to say, hey, there is no reasons why things should be the
So
way
bad.
they are, so bad, etc. So, and we started to transform, and we have made the UK very performing. Then, because of that, I was sent to the North America,
Yes.
in charge of
The US.
Mexico, Canada, and the US.
The Americas,
The Americas for truck tires. At that time, it was loss-making. It was.
Yes.
And I said, there is no reasons why these things should be this way. And then I started to bring the team together.
What was the magic behind that transformation?
Because
in the Americas, what did you do which was special?
I formed the team, reorganized.
You created your team.
I created the team from the people that were existing. But I changed the responsibilities and I changed the way they were organized. So that they mentally will change their frame.
Their frame of reference, the way they
frame of reference, exactly.
On the job.
Because after a while, when the organization doesn't move, then you start to think you're stuck in a way of doing things. And by just reshaping the organizations, very suddenly you have a different way of looking at things. So I did that. And then I also started to instill pride in the mind of people. Saying, hey, you have to be proud. First, we have a wonderful product.
Yes.
You are promoting the best product in the world. So you should be proud of that. Now, there is no reasons why also fought against our customers that were saying, you're too expensive. And I said, you cannot tell us we are too expensive. You can tell us you don't like our prices. That's okay. Yeah. But you cannot tell us because you don't know what it takes to build a Michelin tire. And then I worked a lot with our teams to instill self-esteem.
Yes,
pride in what they do.
Pride as well, what they do, and
exactly,
and the craft behind making the tires, because it's a real craft.
And then I brought the sales team into the plants to say, understand what it takes.
Appreciate the work that is being done to build those tires.
And then I brought them also to the research department and said, look at what these guys are doing to build, so that we can have this kind of tires, to innovate
the next generation of tires and so on.
So then I now also co-built with the team, saying, okay, now why should we accept to be there and in the status quo? So and then if you don't convince me, how can you be convinced yourself about this? And then we started to work from that, and it worked very well. Wow. So we transformed North America. And then I was sent to South America.
You did the same?
I did the same. And then I was back to Africa and Middle East. I did the same.
Wow.
And then in Europe, I did the same. And then I had the world, and I did the same. When I received the world, I was in charge of the passenger car worldwide.
Yes.
And at that time, it was Michel Rollier who was in charge, the successor of Edouard Michelin.
Yes.
And he told me, I give you half the group. This thing has never created value. Its entire history. It's too big, so that I cannot sell it. Okay. But I don't know what to do with it.
So figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. And now, this is the best performing division of Michelin.
So you've been the Mr. Transformation of Michelin since decades. The agent of transformation, right?
I'm an agent of transformation because I'm never satisfied.
Yes, I love that. I tend to be the same. Professional career. But it's also sometimes very hard that you have very high standards for yourself. You also have high standards for others, usually. And we know perfection is not of that world. So sometimes it can be frustrating, isn't it?
Yes. And I always look at people.
Yes.
And I always want to find what they can do.
Their potential.
And for them to feel the pride and the sort of acceleration
and the urgency as well to move and to change,
but
and to transform.
The exhilaration you feel when you have success.
Yes.
And what I like most is when I see the spark in the eyes of the people that have success. And I work a lot with the teams so that with everyone so that they challenge themselves.
Yes.
To be in a position to have this spark in the eye.
Love it.
And
this wonderful quote I've been using myself when I was transforming the Microsoft Salesforce from Tolstoy. And Tolstoy, the Russian author, said, everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change himself.
Yeah.
And I think it's so true. And when you start this process and you help people transforming themselves, it's extremely powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they feel they can actually lead the change themselves. And that becomes a viral organization. And that gives tremendous impact, I think. Yes.
And but you see, I've been lucky enough so that I had I made a lot of mistakes, and I had a lot of failures. And from that, I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about myself.
Yes.
And I also learned a lot about what impact I could have on things and on people. And then I've been coached a lot because I've been very turbulent in my development, and sometimes I had difficulties in the relationship with my managers.
With your boss, yeah.
And back to the lessons I learned when I was fired.
Yes, yeah.
Then I said, okay, now I was saying to my manager, okay, help me.
Yes.
There are things I don't understand, I'm not able to manage, and so that they put me in the hands of coach. That helped me. So I've been coached 6 or 7 times.
Wow. You still have a coach today?
Not directly now,
days,
but just before taking the CEO role, I've been coached to prepare myself for that. And after I've been appointed, I've pursued that coaching for 3 years. Yeah. But also decided also to coach first the top 600 of management of Michelin
as well.
But also to coach the executive committee as a team. So we have a coach for the collective coaching of the executive committee.
Yeah, no, I mean, I believe so much. We had a chat before that podcast episode about the power of coaching, which is incredible in terms of helping others to grow by themselves as well, as opposed to tell them what to do.
No, absolutely. I become a little bit better now than I used to be.
Of course.
And I've learned, for example, that it's the best management you can have is by listening, by actively listening to the other one. And first, because it helps the other one to realize that they have to, if somebody is listening to them, they don't have to shout. They just have to be clear about what they expect, what they want.
To be precise.
To be crisp, exactly. And therefore, every time you put yourself in a listening position, you help the other one to shape what they have to say.
I agree.
Rather than having people around the table in the meeting rooms that just want to express the fact that they exist, rather than tackling the point.
Having a real challenging the problem. Now, let's go to probably the biggest transformation, I guess, plan you started in 2021 called Michelin in Motion, if that's right, which is focused on reshaping your company's traditional business model to become a diversified player in mobility solutions, sustainability, and innovation, of course. So the core pillars of transformation include, I think, expanding beyond ties into high-tech sectors like hydrogen fuel cells, of course, reinforcing your company's commitment to sustainable practices and a circular economy, and creating as well new service-oriented digital offerings, and investing in premium products from electric vehicles and specialty markets as well. So tell us more about where you are on this transformation. Do you feel good about where you stand, given the goals you started and you set, and how much more you still have to achieve?
Yes. So it all started with relooking at what we are doing.
Yep.
And I asked myself a very simple question, which is, what is a tire? And for our auditors, if I were to ask you what is a tire, and give me a definition of what is a tire without using the word tire, it will become very difficult.
Yes.
And it was very difficult for me. And it took me several months to put a definition of what is a tire if you don't use the word tire.
Yes.
And a tire is a critical component. It's a critical composite that changes life. And then when I said, okay, now when I use this definition, then tires is, of course, a very nice, beautiful composite, but there are many other things that will activate the same know-how, same materials, same knowledge, etc., but then very different market applications.
Yes.
And that's how we came, and we said, okay, now we are not a tire manufacturer. We are building the world leader in life-changing composites and experiences.
Life-changing composites. Wow.
Exactly. And then now we are in belting. We are building an object that will go on the moon. We are crafting coated fabrics that will be on the space.
Wow.
Space people
yes.
in the spationaut garments and
yes.
things like that.
Yeah.
So we are doing. We are also building polymers that will help repair the body.
Wow.
That can carry medicine, etc. So we are.
It's pretty amazing because we don't think of Michelin that way today. Enough. I mean, exactly. I know you started talking about it, but it's not yet visible. Maybe touchable. In many ways, I think Florent is very connected to the mission of Michelin, the why of Michelin. I think you asked this question when you started defining what a tire is without using the word tire. And I believe a lot in that. As you know, you met as well Satya Nadella, the third CEO of Microsoft, who came as a CEO in 2014. It's been 10 years now. And when he came with our senior leadership team, I mean, we redefined a new mission for Microsoft. And we've seen the incredible power of rallying all the people, customers and others, on the new mission. So can you tell us more about what is Michelin's mission today? And what does it mean to your people, to your customers, to your shareholders, and the way you make it real every day, because that's hard as well, beyond a statement.
So I started that journey in 2011.
Yes.
I was visiting our teams in North America, in the US, and at the time the senior leader in the US told me, Florent, I cannot motivate myself with value creation. And it was for me a very big waha moment. And I said, but his name is Scott.
Yes.
And I said, Scott, I understand. Because that's not why we are there.
Yes.
But he said, you only talk about value creation. So I thought it was why we had to motivate ourselves around value creation. And I realized that I missed something in my explanation to him. And I said to him at that time, I said, Scott, value creation is just a life-saving thing. You have to be alive to be able to exercise your mission. Yeah. So if you don't create value, you're dead. Yes. So you have to create value, but it is not why we do things. So he said to me, why are we doing these things? And then I was stuck. And I started to enter into lengthy discussions. But after a while, I said, okay, we have to redefine that.
The why.
We are together.
Yes.
And we have done that. And by 2013, with Jean-Dominique Senard, who was the CEO at that time, we launched our purpose. And the purpose of Michelin is we care about giving people a better way forward.
Better way forward. Okay.
A better way forward, which includes what the object we are building, but also includes the people development.
Yes.
And it was from the very beginning. And then to make this very concrete, so that people can work with that, we have defined for what. And the for what, we had several thousand people working from Michelin everywhere. I said to them, tell me what you think are the issues of the world where Michelin can contribute. And so we had tens of thousands of people all around the world that worked on that.
Thinking through that process.
And we then have built our collective dream, which is the way a collective dream is by 2050, Michelin will have been recognized as an innovator in life-changing issues of the world in 4 domains. And we have defined the 4 domains. And that became, this is what drives us by 2050. And then there would be another step.
Yes.
So our purpose will remain. We care about giving people a better way forward, but the milestone will be different. So by 2050, we have activated our purpose, that what you could call a mission, into a collective dream. And the dream is not my dream. it's the collective effort of everyone at Michelin. It was very interesting to see that after a while, after interviewing those thousands of people, it converged very quickly.
It's wonderful because listening to you, I'm someone also spending quite some time with NGOs, philanthropic world, and there's a big thing when it comes to social enterprise called the theory of change that you may know, which is about the way you look at the world, the point of view you have in the world as an NGO, as a social organization, and the way you see a problem, a set of problems as opportunities, and the way you define your theory of change to make things change systematically in a systems way, which is super hard because, of course, your things that you do might be a piece of solution among many other factors, and there are many other drivers in between.
Sorry.
And so it reminds me of that kind of systems change almost that you're talking about. This is very interesting because it looks like almost like a social organization.
Yeah, and it's deeply embedded, rooted in Michelin. You have innovation, and innovation is, as you said, rightly said, is how you look at the world. Yeah, and radical innovation is just people that have looked differently about the same world. Yes, it's the same world, but we always have to factor the fact that we look at it as human beings with our eyes, and therefore with our biases, with all our background, our culture, etc. So therefore we distort the world.
Distort the reality. Yes.
So you have to exercise yourself just to look at it differently. Yes. So, for example, when I look at my cup, I have a view of that cup, and you have another view of that cup.
Yes.
But it's the same cup.
Yes, it is.
But I cannot realize what you see unless
from my bridge.
I start to think about, okay, maybe you could look at it differently from me. Same cup. Yes. But if I look at it from a different angle, then suddenly I realize something new can happen. I see, there's something written in there. Great. Therefore, I can look at it, and therefore I can do a lot of things. So, and too often we are not curious enough. Yes. And we accept things because they are convenient. Yeah. Today.
By comfort. Yes.
By comfort. But innovating is always
uncomfortable.
Exactly. However, it's a big thrill.
Yes.
And as human beings, we know our development over the past centuries is made of innovation.
For sure.
So, and we don't like it, but we know it's necessary.
Yes.
And so innovating is just looking at the world differently, and it's the same as what you were mentioning.
Yeah, so building on that, Florent, I like to get to the, in a way, the triple bottom line for listeners, because not all the listeners necessarily understand the term triple bottom line. It is really a concept in business and sustainability that expands the traditional focus on profit to include social and environmental issues and responsibilities. The term was actually coined by John Ellington, I think in the mid-90s. And triple bottom line focuses again on three key dimensions: profit, people, and the planet, often referred to as the 3 Ps. When we were together a year ago in your headquarters, wonderful place, by the way, in Clermont-Ferrand, you walked me through the 3 Ps and the way you cascade that down to 120,000 people or more. Can you tell us the way it works in an actual business of the scale of Michelin, so that it's not just nice kind of greening of PR, but the way you make it real in your operations?
So first, it says, if you think about human beings and what is worth in the planet today is human beings. Yes. So you have to realize that human beings live in symbiosis with their environment, whether the society or whether the planet in terms of resources and things like that. So we need to breathe air, we need to drink water, we need to have food. So all of that is given on the planet. Yeah. But if you want to have the means to do what you want to do, you also need to generate a little bit extra, that's the profit, so that you can reinvest and look at the people. So you need you cannot dissociate people planet issues, and corporate issues related to profit.
To profits, yeah.
Otherwise, you're weakening other aspects.
The entire
exactly. So if you only focus on profit, you may not have the people that will accept to do it anymore. And if your profit is based on exhausting your communities or exhausting your resources, then it cannot be sustainable, because after a while you would have dried out all your resources. And I know
you're incredibly convinced on that, and you are doing a lot of stuff, which I love you to share. And I know you're also meeting with many CEOs of other companies in the world, not just French companies, global companies. Where do you see the corporate world in that trajectory of having that balancing act, which is hard, by the way, because it means you have to make some hard financial trade-offs, economic trade-offs with your shareholders as well, on how much you're going to, I don't know, as an example, reset your manufacturing plants because of environmental issues or safety, labor safety issues, or many other. So tell me about, number one, what you've done so far that you are proud of in terms of making it work across Michelin. And number two, kind of the perception you have of the corporate world. I know it's broad, but to give us a sense.
First, in Michelin today, whether you're talking about a 10-year horizon, a yearly horizon, weekly horizon, we always look at businesses under the 3 Ps. So we have indicators on different terms, but always on the 3 Ps. And I never look at a business only on
separately.
1 P. Separately. So we
always
review
all
those 3, and every businesses has to report on those 3 dimensions at the same time. And what we look is, are we able to enhance those 3 dimensions at the same time? Now, if I look at safety in a plant, how can you explain to people that you care about them and you're not working on the safety in the plant?
Their safety,
how can you explain to people that you care about them if you're not investing in their well-being when they work? How can you explain to the communities that you take care of them if you pollute the water outside of your plant? How can you explain to the people that that are working with you or your customers if you're heavily polluting the air that they breathe as individuals? So all of that, when you start to think about it, it makes sense to say, now we have no choice.
Intellectually makes a lot of sense, but practically it's hard.
Practically it's very hard.
It's very hard, right?
But that's what I call the way of doing things in a sustainable manner, is I think in the long run, you would not exist if you have not taken care of those 3 elements at the same time. So now it's very demanding. It means that the well-being of our people has to translate into the bottom line so that we can reinvest in the well-being, and we can have this kind of virtuous circle. And when you care about your environment, the people, and your profit, then it's successful. But it's very demanding.
It is.
You have to be very innovative. You have to be very challenging. You have to be very good at operational excellence. You have to be very good in everything you do.
And particularly, if I may, Florent, when times get tougher, when growth is not there anymore, and you have to take, sometimes tough measures, restructuring, etc. How do you deal with that?
So today we announced the closure of 2 plants in France. It's a very difficult decision, but it's a necessary decision to make sure that the company will be okay in the long run. Now, we have to do it in a responsible manner. So it means that we're taking 2 commitments when we restructure. The first one is to make sure that the people that are directly involved in will have the direct impact on that closure. Can find another sustainable way of working in the future. So we will spend all the money required to make sure that everyone can project himself or herself into a new professional future. But we take a second commitment towards the community, that we will stay there up until we have revitalized, recreated at least the number of jobs we have suppressed in the local community. So we take those 2 commitments at the same time. So everyone in the plant, they know sometimes the market conditions, the structural evolution of our customers, etc., makes it impossible to continue to operate into a location. But we will take care of people. So I have at the same time the responsibility to take care of individuals, but also to take care of the company as a whole.
Of course.
And the two have to be compatible. And the way I deal with that responsibility is to make sure that everyone understands we would be responsible from beginning to the end with everyone.
Okay. On the environment, last question before we shift gears, because the time is going very fast, on your leadership as well. Positive leadership, which is, of course, a big topic of this podcast. You've set some goals, 2030. 2030 happens to be also, as you know, a pretty defining date for the UN, the so-called UN SDG goals. So there's 17 of them in the world, big ones on poverty, on climate change, many things. What is the thing that you like to be the most proud of by 2030 in terms of environment and social impact as a company?
So I'm very proud of what we have done this year.
Yeah.
We have implemented a living wage everywhere around the world.
Wow. Tell us more what it is, because not all listeners will understand what the living wage is.
Living wage is making sure that at the minimum, one wage could support a family of four, two adults and two children, for their housing expenses, transport expenses, food, and transportation, and also making a little saving at the end of every month. So making sure that the minimum, the minimum of what I call a living wage is achieved everywhere around the world. So that has been implemented everywhere around the world from 1st of January this year. Then we've also implemented a One Care program.
One Care as well.
One Care, so that we make sure that everyone around the world has an insurance on the death insurance, also paternity leave or maternity leave paid by the company,
by the company.
and a lot of social support that can help people completely project themselves in the work they do and spend their time developing themselves, not thinking about their survival.
If I was in the US, as an interviewer or CNBC, I would say, is it your job, Florent, to do that for people?
Yeah, because the reward I receive is the level of engagement at Michelin has never been so high. So high. And the productivity level at Michelin has never been as high because of that.
I think it's great to share that, because again, in our home country, of course, where we are today in Paris, there's a lot of discussion going on, of course, on the minimum salary, as we call the SMIC in our country. I know you've been actually very vocal about that, and the way you want to make sure that Michelin is always having those wages which are providing respect to the people, the families, the households, and so on and so forth.
People are not machines.
Yes.
So you do not set your operations based on driving your workforce as machines.
Yes.
People are the essence of what you're doing. So it means that what I said to everyone is Michelin is a giant platform that develops people.
Yes.
And to develop people, we manufacture tire, we do living composites, life-changing composites, we do a lot of stuff. But the real aim is to help people develop.
People are truly at the center of everything you do. Now, let's shift gears to positive leadership. As you know, I've been sharing with you as well that I've been hosting the podcast for about 3 years now. And to me, positive leadership is about leading with purpose. It's about spreading a positive energy with others to have a positive impact in the world. That's the simplest expression of positive leadership. And for a business leader, it implies creating value beyond just profits, which we discuss extensively. So throughout my own journey at Microsoft, and now with Live for Good, my foundation, I've come to see really, the impact of the way that positive leadership can work across the community, across society, and so on. So I'd love really to ask you, in a way, what does positive leadership mean for you, Florent?
It means that you have to have faith in your development.
Yes.
And the fact that, yes, there are many things that do not work. So what? So shall we cry about it? And so I want to be in action. I think
mobile.
We can
in motion
all the time, and because I really think we can have nothing. It's only because you accept it that things will stay the way they are.
Yeah.
If you're really wanting to change things will change. So it means that today we live much better than the way we were living a few
the Michelin brothers.
Years before.
Yes.
So we have made a tremendous development. At the same time, we have created a lot of issues.
Yes.
But I'm absolutely convinced that the issues that have been created by mankind can be solved by mankind. And I strongly believe in collective intelligence. And if you call that positive leadership, yes, I believe in positive leadership. I always look at people and situations in a positive way. So it means that there is always something good about everything.
There's always a hope and an opportunity.
That doesn't mean that you don't face reality.
Oh, yes.
Sometimes reality can be challenging. You have to be demanding with people. You have to be demanding with what you expect, etc. However, you have the reward is much better when you've been demanding. So it means that... But never accept mediocrity, never accept things the way they are. Yeah. You can affect many things.
I think we have the same point of view on positive leadership. It's not just about being rosy and everything is nice and great.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really about getting to the core of the heart, of the care of the people so that they can grow and do more together, actually. So I think we share that common view as well, that leadership is not just doesn't come with a title, whether it is CEO or any title. It's a mindset. It's a positive energy that anyone could unleash at any levels, I'm sure. And I remember visiting one of your plants and Blue Workers doing amazing work in terms of high-end ties. So it was really a craft. I could see that. It was not just machinery. And I could see the way they were incredibly involved with their mission. And I know that as a leader, you've been also launching and shaping this concept of collaborateur, right? And so that could be translated in English for our listeners as collaborateur in French, collaborateur in English, merging the words of collaborator and actor. So can you unpack what you mean by that concept and give us some concrete examples of what it means in the world of Michelin?
Yeah, so we have we have defined 6 transformations that are really everywhere across our 23 different businesses. One of them is called I Am Michelin.
I Am Michelin, yes.
I Am Michelin means that every individual is indispensable for Michelin, that works for Michelin.
Everyone.
So everyone.
Whatever is his role in the company.
Role. Otherwise, first, they should not be in the job.
Of course.
But so you have to respect every job.
Yes.
We have different sets of responsibilities, but everyone is indispensable. Everyone has a contribution towards achieving our collective dream. Everyone is putting our purpose in motion every day. Yes. So it means that when you look at these things this way, then suddenly you say, okay, now, if everyone is indispensable, then we just have to make sure that we collaborate together.
Yes.
So people are not machines, so I do not displace people like machines. We share our purpose. We share this common dream.
Yes.
We share a vision. We share our values of respect.
Values, yeah.
And therefore, when I am in a plant discussing with an operator, I'm discussing from a Michelin employee to another Michelin employee.
2 Michelins.
2 Michelins that are together and trying to make achieve our dream together. So it is a very different way of looking at the
hierarchy,
etc.
In the company.
For example, I have no office with my executive committee. We are all
together in
the platform.
Okay, the share space all together.
Yes, with all our assistants.
Yes.
And
I remember actually, I saw that.
Exactly, because it's we work together. So and there is not a question of hierarchy. The hierarchy only expresses itself when it comes to exercising your responsibility.
Yes.
So sometimes some decisions require me.
Yes.
But most of the time, I am an actor. I am collaborating, and through collaborations, you obtain much better collective intelligence. That's the only way you can tackle complexity.
Yes. Right.
And the most efficient way of coping with complexity is by acting together, by being complementary, by emphasizing the strength of the other one and capitalizing on it.
Yes.
And not seeing the other one as a threat, but as a support.
Yes.
And so the concept of collaborateur is saying everyone is Michelin.
Is Michelin, yes.
In the entire Michelin. It's not me.
Yes.
It's everyone.
Yes.
And everyone has different responsibilities, different jobs. So when a worker in the shop floor in the plant has all the authority to stop the plant if he thinks the quality of the product is not okay.
Okay, wow.
He doesn't have to ask the boss. If he thinks the thing is not right,
he makes the decision.
He makes the decision and he stops.
The chain. Okay.
And it's okay. Everyone understands he's entitled, empowered to do that. Because if he thinks it's wrong for Michelin, then he's right.
He's right to make that decision.
To make that decision.
So, at this stage, we've been discussing a lot, and it's very obvious to me, the sincerity of the sense of purpose of Michelin and where it comes from in the early 19th century, 20th century with the Michelin brothers. But if I was to ask you today, how do you measure that sense of purpose, of belonging to your people, with 120,000 people? How do you measure that? Or do you? We call it Michelin Forward Together. We have an extensive survey for all the employees with 80 questions that we ask every year. Yeah.
And that's how we measure the rate of engagement. And I see that rate of engagement progressing every year and sharply, despite all the difficulties. We have been over the past 4 years through huge crisis, and the rate of engagement is progressing.
Okay.
Because people understand what we're doing, despite all the stress, all the anxiety, all the crisis we are going through. They understand what we're doing together. They understand they are indispensable. Yes. We have, I hope, restore self-esteem in everyone. And we spend a lot of time just talking about it.
Communicating, exchanging, discussing. At all
For example,
levels.
Something that is banned from corporations is talking about doubts and fears.
You're not allowed to talk about your fears or doubts?
No, I am allowed.
Oh, you are allowed.
I am now openly sharing
your own personal doubts as well. As a CEO of the company, you say,
or fears.
I've got also some.
I have doubts.
Yes.
I don't know what to do, etc. And please help me.
Help me.
And by offering my
your vulnerability
need,
as well.
Yes. Yeah. I offer the opportunity to the other one
to contribute and to help.
To contribute to help. Yes. So and we are trying to promote that everywhere, so that and we say always doubt, never hesitate. So it looks contradictory, but it's, no. A surgeon, what you expect a surgeon to do is to doubt before he opens you.
Yes.
But then when he is doing the gesture of opening you, you just want him not to doubt.
Does not hesitate.
No hesitate.
He's very precise.
No hesitation. He has to be precise and do the stuff.
Yes.
Same in the corporation.
In the corporation, I love it. So really last couple of questions. That could end for hours, but you have a very busy agenda. I want to respect it. I need to ask you as well, what is Florent Menegaux on purpose? Your own personal mission, if you've found the words to define it by yourself, Florent. Yeah. What would that be?
I am alive.
You're alive. Wow, that's pretty powerful. 3 words. And you're alive in every dimension of what you do in your life.
I love my life.
As a family, as a community.
I enjoy everything, even the moment. I was the past weekend on the seaside, and I was just looking at how beautiful it is. And it's incredible. I was lucky to be there, and it was a beautiful sightseeing. So I enjoy life.
That's wonderful. Love it. So really last question now, because we are really coming to an end. I'd like you to reflect again, I like the way you've been reflecting on your leadership journey as well. You've been capturing, again, incredible learnings and insights to our listeners. So now in 2024 still, given all of your experience, wisdom, and what advice would you give to a young entrepreneur or young corporate talent from Michelin or other company who would basically ask you the following question: how can I now have a positive impact in the world? What would you tell that person?
I would not tell him anything, because everyone has his own way of doing things, but I could share what my learnings have been. believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself, yeah.
And listen. And be attentive to all the signals that exist around you. If you do that, then suddenly the world looks very different.
That's a wonderful ending, Florent. At the end of this meeting, I almost feel like I'm Michelin as well.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Almost, because you are very contagious in a very positive way about the mission of your company, the purpose, the way you craft things and products for your customers as well. And the way I think you are really leading in many ways, many corporates when it comes to this very hard balancing act about respecting your people, respecting your customers, your shareholders, and creating actually a very holistic value, which is economic, financial value. Yes, absolutely. Otherwise, nothing exists. But also the same with the people, the communities, and the environment and the planet. So because of that, I want to thank you so much. It's been a wonderful learning. Many notes I've taken for listeners. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoy again this episode, please leave us a review and a rating. 5 stars always welcome, of course, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or elsewhere. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, but also to the newsletter. Thank you again, Florent. Merci beaucoup. And thank you to all of you. And see you in a couple of weeks for another episode of Positive Leadership Podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.